My best friend announced at her baby shower that my husband is the father, but I had the last word. I walked into that baby shower thinking I was there to celebrate my best friend. Instead, I ended up watching my entire life implode in front of a room full of people holding cupcakes. Yesterday, my husband Elliot, 32, and I, 30, showed up to a fancy little backyard baby shower for my best friend Denise, who is also 30. Balloons, pastel banners, those ridiculous guessing games. Everything looked normal. What I didn't know was that Denise had been planning a different kind of announcement, one that would wreck our friendship and my marriage in under 10 minutes. Denise and I go way back to our college years. We started off as random roommates, but became best friends almost instantly when we discovered our shared love for live music and chaotic road trips. We went to concerts, got matching tattoos, crashed each other's family vacations. By senior year, we were practically sisters. After college, I landed my dream job at a major law firm. Denise chased a different path, building a following on social media. Still, we always made time for weekend hangouts, movie nights, weird food trucks, lazy brunches. Through everything, I believed she was the one person who would never betray me. Turns out, I was dead wrong. It was one of those chaotic, wine-fueled girls' nights when I first laid eyes on Elliot. He was out celebrating a buddy's bachelor party, and the second our eyes met across the bar, something clicked. Like the universe tilted in his direction. We still joke about who fell first, but the truth is, we both dove headfirst into love that night and never looked back. We've been married 5 years now, and I genuinely thought I'd won the marriage lottery. I've told Denise 100 times how thankful I am she dragged me to that bar. If she hadn't, I'd have never met the love of my life. While I settled down, Denise stayed single for a while, but eventually she met Curtis, and they celebrated their second wedding anniversary just a few months ago. 3 months back, she told me she was pregnant. I was ecstatic, absolutely over the moon. Watching my best friend start a family was something I couldn't wait for. She asked me to be the godmother, and I nearly cried. She also put me in charge of throwing her baby shower. We went with a soft yellow theme, her favorite color, and I coordinated everything with the same caterer I'd used for my brother's wedding, so I knew it'd go smoothly. On the big day, Elliot and I arrived early to help set up. Curtis greeted us at the door and said Denise was still getting ready. I noticed the cake wasn't centered on the table, and knowing how particular Denise can be, I made sure it looked perfect. Guests started arriving soon after, and I was so happy to reconnect with our old college crew. Laughter, hugs, and stories flew across the room, like no time had passed. Then Denise finally made her entrance, glowing in a bright yellow dress, beaming as everyone cheered. She looked stunning, like the picture of joy. We all sat down to eat, clinking glasses, sharing memories, complimenting the decorations. And just when I thought the event was going off without a hitch, Denise stood up. She tapped her glass with a spoon, flashing that camera-ready smile of hers, and thanked everyone for coming. Then she paused, took a long breath. My stomach dropped, though I didn't know why yet. And then she said it, the words that split my world in half. I'm so excited to share this moment with all of you. Curtis and I are expecting our first baby, Denise announced, her voice bright and clear. And I have someone very special to thank for this miracle. My heart swelled, smiling at her from across the room, until she turned, pointed right at Elliot, my husband, and declared, "Everyone, meet the father of my child." Time froze. I swear I forgot how to breathe. The entire room went dead silent. You could hear forks drop. I looked at Elliot. His grip tightened on my hand under the table, and his expression was just as stunned as mine. He blinked rapidly, completely blindsided. I searched his eyes for any clue, guilt, confusion, anything. But he looked as lost as I felt. Everyone was staring. The tension was suffocating. My stomach twisted, my pulse pounding in my ears. Let me back up. Elliot and I have been struggling for years to have a baby. We've seen doctors, endured test after test, and had to accept the painful reality that pregnancy just might not happen for us. It's been heartbreaking, but we've made peace with it, chosen to focus on the love we already have. Only a handful of people know, and Denise was one of them. So to hear her publicly name my husband as the father of her baby, it wasn't just untrue, it was brutal. My chest tightened. Tears threatened to spill. I forced myself to stay composed, but inside I was screaming. Then, just like that, Denise let out this loud laugh, elbowed Curtis, and grinned. Relax, guys, it was a joke. For Instagram, I've got cameras everywhere. Gotcha! The room didn't erupt in laughter. Just a few awkward chuckles. Most of the guests looked confused or downright uncomfortable. I turned to Elliot. His face was beet red. Lips pressed tight, still holding my hand like it was the only thing grounding him. Across the room, I caught Curtis's eye. He didn't look amused. He looked embarrassed. Pissed, even. He gave Elliot a small nod, like an apology neither of them wanted to say out loud. And I just sat there, heart shattered, wondering how someone who knew our deepest pain could think this was funny. Curtis and Elliot had gotten pretty close over the years, and I think Curtis could feel how humiliated we were. Still, I didn't want to blow up at Denise in the middle of her baby shower, at least not then. As she floated around taking selfies, laughing with guests, and playing hostess like nothing had happened, I sat stiffly at the table, trying to hold myself together. Elliot had already leaned over and whispered, "I want to go. Now." I begged him to stay, just until the end of the party. I didn't want to cause more drama than Denise already had. I promised him I'd talk to her, privately. He sighed and nodded, but I could tell he was barely keeping it together. Curtis, on the other hand, looked like he was ready to explode. Out of nowhere, he stood up, his face tight. "Denise, can we talk?" Outside. Everyone turned to watch. You didn't have to strain to hear them. They weren't far, and the tension between them crackled like static. At first it was quiet, just a few stern words, tight gestures. Then Curtis's voice suddenly cut through the room. "I can't believe you'd do this, Denise. These people are our closest friends. You humiliated me, and them, in front of everyone. What the hell were you thinking?" Denise tried to wave it off. "It was just a joke, a harmless prank, babe." But Curtis was not having it. "You call that harmless? You humiliated Elliot, and you mocked their pain. Do you even understand what they've been through?" He kept going, voice rising with every word. "Grow the hell up, Denise. This isn't a TikTok stunt. We're having a child, and you think this is funny?" The whole room had gone still. People shifted in their seats, awkward, unsure whether to pretend they weren't eavesdropping or just leave. Elliot stood up, jaw clenched. "I'm done," he muttered to me. "I'll be in the car." I nodded, watching his back as he walked out. My heart was torn. I felt for Denise, but I couldn't abandon Elliot in that moment. Curtis looked after Elliot,
then turned back to Denise with fire in his eyes. "I'm done too. I'll love this baby, but I can't do this with you. We're over." Denise's jaw dropped. She stood frozen for a moment, then crumpled, sobbing. Curtis didn't stop. He walked right out of the party, leaving her behind. Everyone else just sat there, stunned. No one moved, no one spoke. I wanted to hug Denise, to ask her why she'd do something so cruel. But I knew where I needed to be. Elliot was outside, hurting, and I wasn't going to leave him alone in this mess. So I got up and walked out, without saying goodbye.
When we got home, Elliot was still fuming. Honestly, so was I. We sat on the couch, just trying to wrap our heads around how Denise thought that stunt was remotely okay. That evening, Curtis texted us. He apologized on her behalf, said he had no idea she'd pull something like that for a damn Instagram video, and that he felt awful for what we were put through. I was relieved, honestly. We both liked Curtis, and the last thing we wanted was for this to blow up into some weird couple versus couple fallout. But this morning, I woke up to a flood of texts from Denise. She claimed the whole prank was because she was overwhelmed with pregnancy stress and just wanted a viral reel. Her words. Then she asked why I stormed out without saying goodbye and if I could drive her to her OB appointment today. I just stared at my phone. Was she serious? I told her straight up, that wasn't a joke. It was humiliating. She crossed a line, and both Elliot and I were deeply hurt. I told her I needed time, that I wasn't coming to her appointment, and I needed space to think. She hit back almost instantly, calling me a shitty friend for leaving her when she was most vulnerable. That's when I really lost it. I showed Elliot the messages, and he was livid. He said we should go no contact until she figured out just how wrong this was. So I sent her one final message. I told her I wouldn't be speaking to her again until she apologized to me and Elliot. And if she even thought about posting that video online, I'd take legal action. And then she fired back. No apology. Instead, she said she didn't think she did anything wrong. Worse, she accused me of being jealous of her pregnancy. Jealous. After everything I did to throw her that shower, every ounce of energy I poured into celebrating her, she thinks I'm jealous. I stared at that message for a long time. And then I realized maybe the friendship I thought we had never really existed. Denise texted me that she wouldn't post the video for now, but said I should set my feelings aside and just be there for her during this rough time. She claimed Curtis hadn't come home the night before, and that now, more than ever, she needed me. I'm not someone who likes confrontation, but reading her tone-deaf messages, I just broke down. I sat there crying, realizing how far gone this whole thing had spiraled. That's when I made the decision to cut the cord. I blocked her. No explanation, no drama. Just done. So yeah, maybe I'm a bad friend for walking away from my pregnant bestie. Or maybe she shouldn't have humiliated my husband and me in front of a room full of people. Honestly, I'm not even sorry. It's been a week, and man, the aftermath has been a lot. Let me say this. Denise was never the prank type. I've known her since college, and this just kidding version of her is completely out of character. That's part of why all this caught me so off guard. But Curtis? Oh, he meant every word when he walked out of that baby shower. Elliot talked to him over the weekend, and yeah, Curtis is already meeting with divorce attorneys. Denise hasn't stopped calling or texting him, begging him to come home and get over it. He hasn't replied once. And then she crossed another line. She accused Curtis of sleeping with me. Like, what? out of nowhere. Curtis is just devastated. He told Elliot that he doesn't even recognize her anymore. Said the woman he married is gone. Since I blocked her, Denise couldn't reach me, so she sent Elliot a full-on novel of a message instead. It was vicious. She claimed he was ruining our friendship and then hit below the belt. Quote, "You're barely a man anyway if you can't even get her pregnant." Yeah, she said that. When Elliot came home from work and showed me that message, I saw red. I'd been trying to be understanding, thinking maybe this was hormones or stress. But no, that kind of venom, that was pure, calculated cruelty. So I decided to hit her where it hurts. Subtly, but effectively. I was the one who organized the baby shower, which meant I also had full control over her baby registry, having poured hours into planning it with Denise, sitting with her, jotting down everything she claimed she needed for the baby. But let's be honest, a lot of it was ridiculous. Designer diaper bags, a $1,000 stroller, a bottle warmer that looked like it belonged in a lab. I remember thinking, who's this for, the baby or her Instagram? Some of the guests followed the list, sure, but others brought thoughtful, practical gifts, things every new mom could actually use. Denise, though, she looked visibly unimpressed the whole time. I had even planned to surprise her with a few of the high-end items she wanted, but the second she decided to humiliate my husband, I canceled the entire order without a second thought. Not only that, I deleted the baby registry. Gone. If she wants one now, she can start from scratch. A few days later, the caterer messaged me. She had done the food for the shower, and I'd been so overwhelmed with everything going on that I hadn't even replied. What she didn't know was that I had paid half the booking as a surprise for Denise, planning to cover the rest after the event. But after what went down, there was no way I was shelling out another dime. I called the caterer, told her the truth. She was kind, almost too kind, and totally got it. She said since Denise had made the booking in her own name and had been in direct contact with them, the final invoice would be sent to her, not me. Relief doesn't even begin to cover it. When I told Elliot, he actually laughed. After all the crap Denise had pulled, it felt good to finally get a tiny bit of payback. No shouting, no drama. Just clean, cold consequence. I've had moments in the past week where I considered texting her, maybe to get closure, maybe to say my piece. But after that message she sent my husband, I knew I was done. Really done. To everyone who's backed me up through this, thank you. You helped me see just how toxic things had gotten. I wish I'd seen it sooner. I can think of countless moments where Denise took subtle jabs at me, but I always brushed them off, until now. Either way, I've decided to stay focused on the good and leave all of this behind. She's drained enough of my time and peace. Just a couple of days after I had that talk with the caterer, Denise showed up in my inbox with an email so toxic, it practically hissed when I opened it. She called me cheap for not paying the full catering bill, conveniently forgetting that I had already covered half of it as a gift. Then she threw in some classist garbage, saying I was a stuck-up brat just because I was born into money. And as if that wasn't low enough, she flat out said she was glad I couldn't get pregnant. It escalated quickly from petty to downright cruel. She admitted to using me for years just to make her life easier, called me ugly repeatedly, said I didn't deserve my husband and that he must have only married me for my money because there's no way someone like me could land a man like him otherwise. She pinned the blame for her failing marriage on me too, insisting I had driven a wedge between her and Seth. The entire message was a cesspool of insults and profanity, every word dripping with venom. When I showed the email to my husband, he completely lost it. We've bent over backwards for this woman, held her hand through every breakup, brought her along on vacations, paid for her flights, her rooms. My husband even repaired her parents' crumbling house and lent them money when they were tight. We treated her like blood. That night, my husband called up Seth and asked him to come over. When Seth arrived, we laid it all out for him. His reaction? Pure horror. Then he showed us what he'd been getting from her, too. Texts that were just as explosive. She'd accused him of cheating, sent him profanity-laced tirades, flung outrageous claims like she was throwing rice at a wedding. It turned our stomachs. These weren't just emotional outbursts. They were dangerous, calculated smears. Seth let us know he'd already hired a top-tier divorce lawyer. Following the lawyer's advice, he hadn't responded to a single message from her, no matter how vicious they got. And from what we saw, they were brutal. Seth kept screenshots of every unhinged thing she texted him. He even snapped a photo of the email she sent me. He said his divorce attorney needed the full picture. Since the story blew up, a few people have messaged me, suggesting maybe Denise's sudden shift in personality was neurological. But let me be clear, she's always had a mean streak. Back in college, Denise had a hair-trigger temper. I've seen her go off on strangers in public, cursing and yelling without an ounce of shame. I'd just never been on the receiving end of it. Until now. That said, my husband and I still decided to reach out to her parents. We laid everything out, screenshots, the email, the timeline. We figured if anyone could get through to her, it'd be them. If they think something deeper is going on, it's their call to take her in for a real evaluation. But me? I'm done. I have zero interest in unblocking her or responding to any more of her deranged messages. I've bent over backwards for this woman, and she's done nothing but spit venom in return. At this point, I just want peace. My focus now is on my husband, our dogs, and living a drama-free life. These past few months have been a whirlwind, exhausting, eye-opening, heartbreaking, but we're finally finding some calm.
Right now, we're in the Maldives, unplugged from the madness and soaking up the sun. After everything, we needed this break like air. And yeah, in case you're wondering, Seth followed through. The divorce was finalized. Court was messy, but Seth's attorney came in with receipts. And that prenup? Rock solid. Denise tried to fight it, but she walked away with almost nothing. They were also ordered to set up a co-parenting plan for the baby, which, honestly, is probably the only good outcome from all of this. After we talked to her parents, we found out she had to move back in with them. Turns out, being pregnant and unemployed with no real career doesn't pay well. Her influencer income didn't last long, so now she's back in her childhood bedroom, licking her wounds. I never thought it would end like this, but honestly, I'm glad it did.